Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I'm your host, Philip Catalfamo. We have got a great show in store for you this week. Later in the program, we'll be joined by Flagstaff track and field coach Matthew Barquin. He returns to the show to speak about last season's state playoffs, the promising freshman class, and a potential move up to Division I. We'll then be joined by Lee Williams High School baseball coach Zach Smith. He'll break down his coaching origins, what the pitching rotation might look like, and speaks about the program's next game against Moon Valley. And when we return from break, we'll be joined by Chino Valley High School baseball coach Jason Olson. He joins the show to speak about the start of the season, what position battles we could see, and previews their next game against Northwest Christian. All of that and a whole lot more coming up right here on Off the Bench. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in Northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I'm your host, Philip Catalfamo, which I said earlier, but we are welcomed by Chino Valley High School baseball coach Jason Olson. Coach Olson, welcome onto the show.
Thank you for having me.
Very happy to have you, Coach. Weird intro for me, but the Cougars are having a great season so far, 4-2 overall. They're getting ready to start region play here real soon. They started the season 3-2 with wins over Sedona, Payson, and Sholo. Coach, how are you feeling about the start of the season this year?
I feel pretty good so far. We're still really young in some spots and have a lot of improvements to make, but overall, I like where we are at this point.
Can you take us through some of those early season wins? What did that tell you about your team early on?
Shows that we have a lot of depth. That's probably one of the things that I'm happiest about, is because we have so many guys on the team this year that can play baseball a little bit. If we have someone having a bad day or not doing too well, it's easy this year to look on the bench and try to find someone that might be able to do better.
So young, but it sounds like you guys have a lot of pieces sitting on the bench and a lot of guys who can contribute.
We do. And we've told them a few times that in years previous, they would have been out there playing, but because there's so many players, unfortunately, some of them are going to have to sit more than they would like.
I don't mean to sidetrack, Coach, but I know you're out on the baseball field right now, and I initially thought that you were on vacation because the back or the outfield wall is blue, and in the distance it looks like, I don't know if it's trees, but I thought they were ships. I was like, oh, Coach Olson's over in San Diego right now enjoying the beach while we're doing this interview. But of course, that would make zero sense because you have a game on Friday against Fountain Hills. But can we take a look at the baseball field real quick, Coach, and just look and see what things are like there?
Yeah, I'm not really sure how to do it, but this is starting at left field.
Yeah.
And I hope I'm doing it right.
Well, this would be great for those watching along, but those listening on KVNA 104.7, we're just getting a look at the Chino Valley Baseball Stadium. It's gorgeous. If you want to take a look at it, go watch this interview on youtube.com/Verde Valley TV. You can watch the full thing. Gorgeous stadium over at Chino Valley High School. But, Coach, getting back to the interview here, you guys also took a trip down to Tucson to participate in the Lancer Baseball Classic at South Point Catholic. A lot of teams here in Northern Arizona participating in that tournament. Coach, how do these midseason tournaments help your team going forward in the season?
I think most importantly, it gets a lot of players opportunities to play when maybe they haven't. With pitch counts and everything that we do in Arizona, sometimes we run out of those things. So it gets everybody a chance to, do something. It might only be 2 or 3 at bats, but if we're just playing regular games, those are 2 or 3 at bats they may not have had.
I know we'll get a chance to speak with Lee Williams, baseball coach Zach Smith a little later. But Coach, I want to ask, I'll ask the same question to Coach Smith. I know a lot of these tournaments, sometimes you'll have the shortened games. There'll be like 4 innings or 5 innings, or you'll have, just because of time, you got to move along in the tournament. So obviously, like you mentioned, with pitch counts here in Northern Arizona and in the state of Arizona in general for high school sports, how do you kind of balance the strategy and trying to get those guys that time while also not, leaving your pitching rotation susceptible when you need these guys during regular season games?
Well, one of the things that we've done is we've tried to make non-pitchers pitchers. So if we run into those situations, we have a big depth and staff that we can run out there. We looked out this year. We were supposed to play in Winslow, and we ended up getting canceled. So we had one of our starters was available a lot earlier than initially planned because we ended up having that game canceled.
Coach, you guys also took on Holbrook, able to get a victory there. Like I mentioned, you guys will be taking on Fountain Hills today. For those who are listening along, the Cougars will be in a battle against the Falcons. But how'd that game against Holbrook go, Coach? And how are you feeling against Fountain Hills going into that one?
Game against Holbrook went well. Obviously, we won 10-0. A lot of things to work on still, but most importantly, we have one really good inning where it actually showed what we could do when we have the right mindset and the right mental capability and go out and execute the things that we teach. As far as the Fountain Hills game, they're always going to be tough, and it's going to be a tough matchup to begin with. Yeah,
that'll be your first region matchup, Coach. I know you haven't gotten a chance to see the region just yet, but I'm curious, what have you heard about the region this season and how you feeling about it?
I think it's going to be similar to how it's been in years past. Fountain Hills and Northwest Christian are going to be really tough teams. In general, it's a tough region, so everyone's going to be tough, but those two are going to stick out a little bit more than some of the other teams. So, we kind of get a test early to see how we're going to match up.
I want to talk about your you got Aaron Stoller. You've got Hector Vasquez, Spencer Buchanan, all 3 of those guys, along with a few others in your sophomore class, and a couple freshmen finding their way onto the roster as well this season. How are you feeling about your younger guys? I know the season's still going on. You're getting them some more experience, getting some more playing time, but, kind of just briefly looking forward to next season. I mean, how are you feeling about that group going forward?
We like this group, and we've been looking forward to the young kids coming up for a while. It's one of our strengths and our weaknesses at the same time. If we can get the younger kids to adapt to varsity baseball this year, then it's going to be something that we're really excited about this year, but we're definitely excited about next year and the years past with the young kids, young group that we have, even at the JV level.
Baseball is one of those sports where kids are playing this sport year round. They come in playing elementary school, they're playing in middle school before they come to play in high school. I played in elementary school. I also played travel ball. I played in high school as well. I want to ask, when these kids come into your program as freshmen, how seasoned are they?
We're trying to change that a little bit. We have a B team and the summer team now, and usually we've gone with the incoming freshmen only, along with some of our younger kids that have been in the program. Yeah. This summer, we're actually going to reach out to the incoming 8th graders and the incoming ninth graders, and just try to give them a little bit of taste of what's going to happen when they get here, and hopefully season them a little better. Unfortunately, sometimes with travel ball, you don't get because none of us coaches coach travel ball. Right. So it's a difficult time transitioning from what they were used to in travel ball to what we're trying to do at Chino Valley baseball. So the earlier we get to them, we're hoping to have that benefit us from years to come.
Well, I mean, like you said, Coach, obviously these kids are also playing travel ball. They come into your program. They have a specific stance. They have a particular way they like to throw. And you come in and how do you approach those adjustments with kids who have been playing travel ball? Obviously, everyone sees things differently. So I'm sure there are some things that might seem correct, but aren't. So I want to ask, when you get a kid who comes in, played travel ball a few years, maybe you want to adjust a few things. How do you approach those adjustments without compromising, the kid's overall approach to the plate or up on the mound?
I think probably the biggest thing is just communication and making sure we're, being honest with them and letting them know what we see and what they can do to improve. And then the second part of that is hopefully they're buying into what we're letting them know and telling them and teaching them so they can start working on that stuff and end up getting better.
Yeah. You talk about some of those summer programs and stuff for the incoming 8th graders and 9th graders. Just, if you can, are there any specific things that you'd like to accomplish with that group? Any kind of games you'd like to accomplish, or just getting them with drills, just kind of catching them up to speed?
Yeah, we kind of do everything. Our A team, we don't practice a whole bunch in the summer. We just kind of go out and play these local tournaments and stuff. But with the B team, we try to practice 2 days a week with them, get them used to what we're trying to do, and get them as many reps is really the biggest thing with summer baseball in both programs, but definitely the younger kids, just as many reps as we can, and just, this is what we are, this is what we want to do, this is how it is, and hopefully they're able to adapt easier, which has worked so far.
Again, we are speaking with Chino Valley High School baseball coach Jason Olson. Coach Olson, you got four seniors on the roster this year. What can you say about that group's contribution?
Right now, they're the ones that are carrying us. They've got the experience, and luckily they've gone out there and done what they're supposed to do and taking care of their jobs, which has made it a little easier sometimes for the younger kids.
Yeah. Any position battles we can look out for? Any seniors who might be, trying to hold on to that spot at third base or shortstop? Anything interesting there?
In high school baseball, that's always the case, especially with as deep as we are, unfortunately, a couple times. Some of the upperclassmen have had some issues and haven't had a problem sitting them next to us and letting one of the young kids go out there and talk to them for a few innings and let them know that just because they were there today and they've been there in the past doesn't mean they'll be there in the future.
Well, I know, speaking with Coach Eric Casada of Mingus Union High School, he talks about Zach Harrison, his senior catcher, moving out to the outfield so freshman Xavier Buckner can move into that position. He talked about having some of those conversations. I mean, how does that conversation break down when you're talking to a senior player who's been starting at third for you all 3 years, and now here, you got a freshman, so you want to push me somewhere else? I mean, how do you approach that conversation with that player?
Again, just be honest with them and communicate with them. And, since the beginning, since we've been here, we've kind of let everybody know that, not only is every position open, we might have to move you. We're not moving you necessarily because we want to. We're not moving you because we have to. But I have a lot of kids that have the ability to play 2 or 3 different positions. Mm-hmm. So any time that we can get somebody playing time somewhere is always a benefit to us.
I remember when I was in high school, I was a freshman starting at a brand new school, Shadow Hills in Indio, California. And we had this transfer from Florida. I played catcher all through middle school and elementary school. I was ready to take on and be the varsity catcher for Shadow Hills. And then this tall 6'1" catcher comes in from Florida named Taylor Ward and came in and just absolutely wiped the floor with me and was the starting catcher at varsity until he was drafted by the Angels in the first round a couple seasons ago. So you can tell where our careers have ended up. I'm here and he's currently playing professional baseball. But you're right. I think that communication is always important. I was told the same thing. It was like, hey, you're probably going to move down to JV. We've got this guy here who's a million times better than you are. But in a lot of cases, that isn't the case. It's like you said, just there's position needs. Guys can move to other spots. And like you said, you just have an open communication with those guys and just let them know what's going on. Speaking specifically about the JV coach, can we talk about your coaches down at the lower levels and how they contribute with the development of your future players?
Absolutely. They've got a lot of experience. Also, our head JV coach actually was here at Chino Valley High School when they won the state championship. So, was able to play a little bit of college baseball. So he's got that knowledge. Our assistant at JV currently goes to Embry-Riddle. He was a college baseball player as early as last year, was hoping when he transferred out here to Embry-Riddle, he'd still be able to play. But with all the COVID and all that stuff going on, they had so many guys on their roster. They unfortunately just, we don't even have room to look at you. So he had coached in the past and he reached out to me, which was awesome. And, it's always good when you got guys like that with experience that know what's going on at the lower levels to not only help them teach the way that we're trying to do things at Chino Valley baseball, but just baseball in general and life.
Again, we were speaking with Chino Valley High School baseball coach Jason Olson. Coach Olson, you guys got a game coming up here against Northwest Christian next week. I want to ask, you said they're a tough team. I know them in Fountain Hills are tough in the division you guys are in, the region you guys are in. So, I mean, how are you preparing for that one against Northwest Christian?
We're just going to go out there and play our game, and hopefully we don't make too many mistakes and, do what we can do. Unfortunately, you can only control the things that you can. Yeah. You can't control some of those other things. So as long as we go out there and we catch the routine balls and we make our routine pitches, we'll be in that ball game. If not, then it might be a long day for us.
Coach, where's an area you'd like to see this team improve in?
Definitely the hitting side, especially with 2 strikes. I think that especially with our younger kids, they think that striking out is a bad thing and they go up there timid. I've never yelled at a kid for striking out. We've had some talks about striking out and we've had some talks about the way you want to strike out. So just getting everybody to understand that, there's a right way and a wrong way to go about things. If you go about things the right way and you strike out, that's part of the game. It's when you go about it the wrong way, you swing at strike 1 over your head and then you watch strike 2 right down the middle. And then the umpire makes a questionable call on strike 3, in our opinion out here, that's, something that they're able to control. And that at bat wasn't a very good quality at bat. And, just talking to them with how they should have handled that at bat rather than, yelling and screaming that they struck out.
Yeah, I definitely agree, Coach. I feel like, your approach at the plate has always got to be, one step ahead of the pitcher. You got to know 1 count. You're probably going to see something a little off the plate, make you chase for 0-2, or, you see something that's probably high and in so that you can, whatever the circumstance is. But I want to ask just real quick before I let you go, Coach, how have you been able to develop that plate approach for your younger players? I mean, what kind of advice do you tell them when they're up at the plate?
Basically, our whole program is we're looking for a fastball until we get 2 strikes.
Okay.
And then the second part of that is hopefully, unless we put on a certain sign or in a certain situation, we just let them know that we try to get them to figure out, are they better hitting the ball middle away or middle in? And whatever that strength is, until they get 2 strikes, that's the approach that they should have. They're looking to hit a fastball either middle in or middle away to start with. And then once they get to 2 strikes, we get our 2-strike approach. And basically that, we extend the plate about 6 inches on the outside. We try to take away the inside part of the plate by getting a little bit closer to home plate and, basically just trying to put the ball in play. We've got team speed. So as long as we can get the ball in play, especially at the high school level, lots of good things can happen.
Coach Olson, thank you very much for taking the time to talk about your Chino Valley Cougars. Again, the Cougars will be taking on Northwest Christian next week. Coach Olson, I wish you nothing but the best of luck. I'm sure we'll touch base again mid-season.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me again.
Thank you, sir. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Flagstaff track and field coach Matthew Barquin right here on Off the Bench. Don't go anywhere.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I'm joined now by Flagstaff High School track and field coach Matthew Barquin. Coach Barquin, welcome onto the program.
I love being here. Thanks for having me again.
Well, we're always happy to have you, Coach. We talked to you a couple times last year. You guys were able to make the state competition last season. Just some of the notables, senior Graham Norris was able to finish top 15 in a few meets. Danielle Shanahan also finished well. She's a fellow senior from last year on the girls' side. But, Coach, just in general, how did state competition go? How did the team finish out? And how did you feel the season went?
We were really happy in how the season went. Our upperclassmen did exactly what they needed to do. Graham and Danny are some key examples. But we had some other athletes that surprised us throughout the season that to PR at the state meet is a huge accomplishment. I mean, our ultimate goal is to peak at that last meet. So we were really happy on some of their performances, and being able to PR there is huge. So we were happy.
What did you tell those seniors after the end of state competition before they moved on with, the next step in their lives?
I think a lot of those seniors, it was the big talk of they didn't have a traditional season with COVID, losing a year and then battling back and having to kind of go through the hoops and the hurdles of COVID tracking and separation and all that, that they were still able to get to this point was huge, a major accomplishment for them.
What can you say about the contributions of that entire senior class? You got to see them grow over the past couple seasons. What can you say to their contributions to the program?
I think the big thing I would like to kind of thank that senior class for is to show how an athlete can do multiple events and be successful. You always have that traditional kid that comes out like, I want to run the 100-meter dash, and that's it. It's a battle just to get them to go up to a 200. But that senior class, I'd say almost all of them did multiple events and did well. And I think they kind of instilled on our younger kids of, maybe I need to try something new. Maybe I need to reach out to long jump. So I want to thank them for that.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about some of the events. You always have kids you do have some of those instances where the kids just kind of want to do one thing. And then you also have those instances where, they want to change events. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But, Coach, how about the off season? How did it go? Was the program able to welcome in some new faces? I got a couple of freshmen I'd love to point out, but just in general, what did you guys do during the off season and how did it prepare you for the season?
So our big push this year was to kind of start a little earlier, mainly to teach them the new events, because that's kind of, and I know we'll talk about a little bit of them wanting to try something new constantly. Of partway through the season, they're like, hey, I think I want to try long jump now. My goal was to start that process earlier.
Right.
So when the weather wasn't bad, I would do a long jump practice of like, hey, if you've never tried it and want to come out, let's get in the sand. Same thing, high jump, pole vault. We try to introduce that earlier this year.
So how did you introduce those early on? I mean, how much time do you think an athlete would need? Let's just talk about it then, Coach. Let's talk about that transition from one event to another. I mean, how much time do you feel a player would need to sort of not gain, obviously, a professional knowledge of the event, because you only got so many months to work with them, but, how much time and how much dedication do you take to go, okay, you can focus on the 100-meter dashes, but you also want to do this one. So we need to kind of find that balance. So I guess my question is then, how do you find that balance between, keeping your players up at tip-top shape in the events that they're very good in, while also welcoming in a challenge and welcoming in them wanting to do more? So how do you balance those two?
I think that's probably the hardest thing for any track coach right now is balancing, okay, I still need you to get your sprint workout in, but I also don't want to shoot your legs so you can go get a proper step in long jump. So it's kind of that balancing act of working with my field event coaches saying, okay, who do you want today? They're like, all right, well, we're going to work with the younger athletes today, the new ones. So then the older varsity can come with me for a sprint workout and just training every other day to balance of when they can get a workout in, but still get their field event workouts in.
So what are some of those events that our kids are switching back and forth from? Are they trying to do more of the running and then also maybe like a discus or a shot put kind of thing? Or like you said, the long jump? Or are they going, oh, I want to do the 100 and I also want to do the 200, or I want to do, this particular running event? Is it a contrast between the running and non-running, or is it kind of both, or does it just come with, the kid?
It's kind of a mixture of both. Really our distance kids, they are constantly training for all types of distance. So 800 all the way up to our 2 mile. Our sprinters, I'm training them for the 100 up to the 400. So they get that blend of workouts.
Okay.
There's some kids that we figure out, it's like, all right, you don't have the leg endurance to do a 400. I'm still going to train you that way because it'll reflect into your 2s.
Okay.
And yeah, the hard part is the field events running mixture.
Yeah. So, I mean, where are some of these events that kids are wanting to change over to? Is it shot put? Is it discus or kind of the long jump? Like, what are they gravitating towards?
So a lot of it right now I'm seeing is high jump and long jump. They want to go over there and flirt with those. Pole vault, usually I think, you want a pole vault just because it's a scary event. I think in the beginning, most kids know if they're ready for that event or want to try it. Yeah. Our throws, javelin is always that one. They're like, ooh, I want to throw a spear, which is fine. We'll totally run them through and see if they have that skill set, because you have to be pretty coordinated for that one.
Yeah, I always forget about the javelin competition because I believe it's still illegal in California high schools track and field to utilize the javelin. I'm not sure if that's still correct
I can't
anymore.
remember. Well, I mean, for Arizona, I think this is our 4th year. It wasn't legal for the longest time, but I think it's our 4th or 5th year throwing it. So it's still a pretty new event for Arizona.
Well, Coach, I want to talk a little bit about your JV program. I know you don't necessarily have what you would call a traditional JV program, more so on the topic of just building kids up and getting them prepared for future competition. So we had talked about it before we got started, and you had said that you kind of have more of like a pseudo JV program. It's a big program where it's kind of broken down a little bit, but I want to ask, without the traditional JV program where they're competing in JV events, how do you kind of build up and develop your newer runners and your newer younger kids who, you're going to have kids who come in with particular skill sets. It is what it is. Some kids are going to run better than others. But when you get some new kids who are, I wish we could put them down on JV for a little bit so they can get a little better at the 100 or get a little better at the shot put or the javelin. So I want to ask, without that traditional JV program, how do you develop those new kids to your program?
So something we do for Flag High, and we're kind of unique for Northern Arizona to do this, but we cap out as many meets as we have. So traditionally I have 2 meets a week, usually like a Wednesday meet and then a Friday, Saturday varsity meet. So I say, all right, you're constantly battling for that Saturday entries because it's usually top 3, top 4. So those are my traditional varsity athletes that get up there. And it's that battle to get into those top 4. And some of my JV kids who I thought were JV have earned a spot onto those positions. And if you don't make that spot, then you're still running on Wednesday we just got back from Sedona last night where my JV kids could go down. I had 6 entries. So I had all spectrums of my athletes down there. And they got to compete and they got to enjoy it. Now, it was a long day for me, but the big thing is they were happy. They had fun. The 4x4 was the last event. I'm tired. I want to go home. But the smile on these boys' faces of, I got to run it. I'm exhausted, but it was fun. I mean, that's what it's all for.
Again, we're speaking with Flagstaff High School track and field coach Matthew Barquin. The Eagles are in the midst of their season right now. We'll talk about some of the early competition that they've competed in, but I want to talk about some of the players specifically, Coach. First and foremost, I want to wrap up our conversation about, some of the talent that comes into the program. A lot of kids participate in track and field in middle school, much like cross country. A lot of kids participate in cross country, from middle school up until high school. So, I want to ask, how seasoned are these kids coming into your program when they're freshmen or sophomores?
You know what? Yeah, there's definitely a big learning curve. I mean, learning how to do the block starts. I mean, with track, my favorite phrase for track is chasing perfection. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's always your block start. Oh, you didn't lean far enough, or you didn't do this. I mean, we're always trying to inch up the ladder. That first month is definitely a big learning curve for all of them because track is awkward. Throwing the javelin is awkward. You don't throw it like a baseball like most kids think. I'm just going to chuck this. There's a lot more finesse. So that first month, big learning curve. But even last night's meet, you can see them improving and they're getting more comfortable in this sport.
Well, Coach, let's talk a little bit, not only last night's meet, but the ones that started out the season. The Eagles started the competition this year at the Richard Thompson South Mountain Classic. They followed that up with the 66th annual Buckeye Lions Invitational. And of course, the Mountain Ridge Invite. They're in the midst of the 82nd Nike Chandler Rotary Track and Field Classic. They're doing that this week. We're talking to Coach Barkeen a little before they get that competition going, before they head to the Ron Smith Classic at Shadow Mountain High School on April 1st. So, Coach, I know we listed a lot of events, but just to start off the season, how did you feel those early meets? What did those early meets tell you about your team, and how did they give you an indication on what kind of talent you've got this year?
At that first meet we went to, the South Mountain meet, was huge because I think there were only a handful of D2 schools. The rest were all straight D1, and our girls placed 3rd. I mean, it blew me away that we're beating multiple D1 schools at D2 schools, and we're placing pretty high. Yeah. This is something that my coaching philosophy and my whole team, we don't really go to meets thinking let's win it, because the end goal is to get to the state meet. So they're going for times. So I never go to a meet thinking, okay, let's strategically only have this kid run one event so they're fresh. No, I want them to train. I want them to get ready for state. So when we pull off getting high placement in a meet, that just shows the strength of our team. So I was super happy that the boys, if I remember, were 5th. Yeah. Again, placing really high to 35 schools.
Well, Coach, you talk about, competing well against these Division I programs. I'm not sure what the contrast is between a Division I track and field team and a Division II, as opposed to, a 4A compared to a 6A school regarding other sports, where it's a little obvious, you can tell the school size. But do you think that maybe in the future we could see Flagstaff move up from D2 to Division I, especially considering how well your program performed in a meet that carried a lot of Division I teams?
So it's actually going to be interesting. Dave Shapiro, who's the head of track and field for AIA, they have a proposal coming out, and it's still getting tweaked a little bit, where we're actually going to go to the traditional 1A through 6A.
Oh, okay.
And it's based off the California model. Arizona used to do it, where you do a conference meet. Mm-hmm. So we would go into the 4A conference meet, and then from there you'd qualify for state. So that's actually going to kind of flip all of our scripts on how we kind of are strategic about this. So.
Yeah, I'm curious, Coach. Obviously we'll get a little bit more information about that when, it comes about. But yeah, I'll be interested to know how the regions break down, because there are so many teams in track and field. You look at those divisions, there's 20 plus teams, and to break them down all into regions, I guess you could probably follow the model of football or any of the other sports. But does that change your game plan at all if you have to do a conference meet? I mean, do you feel like it'll change anything for you as a coach?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. That's some of the details still getting kind of hammered out, because two ideas are going into it. Do you qualify from the conference meet to go to state, meaning you have to perform there, or it's all or nothing, or are they going to take season bests? So that's going to be kind of an interesting thing AIA is still kind of hammering out. Okay. And both of those directions are going to completely change how we do this for a whole season, I guess.
Well, Coach, still keeping in the context of this season, I guess, for now, where's an area you'd like to see this team improve in?
I think the biggest thing is, again, we're not peaking yet. It's still so early. So some of our athletes are getting upset. They're like, I'm not finishing how I want. I'm not getting the times I want that I did last year. And I'm like, it's okay. You should not be hitting your PR right now. Yeah. I had one athlete, she got super upset about her open 4 last night. And I'm like, you know what? Your PR is from right before state last year. And then we had a season off. You did soccer. Like, you need to be patient. Give it time.
Yeah.
Just that maturity of being patient.
Yeah. It's just all learning curve. I mean, you obviously want to do the best you can. You want to do the best for the team. Track and field is a very individualistic sport, yet has a lot of team aspect. We talked about a lot. We talked with Coach Barkeen and a lot of other track and field coaches about that particular aspect when it comes to just, understanding that, yes, you want to run well, but you also, don't want to push yourself too hard or hurt yourself. Like you said, having that patience to understand that, hey, I just got off the basketball court. Now I'm getting onto the track field and I'm not going to be where I was last year. So totally understand that, Coach. I love that you're pushing that patience into those kids, because it's also great that they want to push themselves. I mean, realistically. So moving on now, of course, the program welcomed in some solid freshmen. I want to talk about your new class, Coach. I know you welcomed back some solid talent. In Gunnar Price, Alexis Porter, Chase Rumsgate, just to name a couple of the kids that you got coming back from last season. But your freshmen have been running really well. Peyton Bullmore, Haley Johnson, Cole Troxler, all three have been very standout this year. I know there's more, so I want to give you a chance to talk about that new class coming in. If you want to talk about some of the returners, please do as well.
Yeah, so you've mentioned a few of the key ones that always come to my mind. We also have Parker Clifford. Mm-hmm. His mom had reached out. He's actually dual sporting. He's doing baseball and track at the same time, so I have to share him a little bit. But
yeah, you and Coach Dobosh can have to share him. Yeah,
yeah. He came out of the gate, and he's our second fastest runner right now for the 100 and the 200 as a freshman. So he came out of the gate and just blew me away, because I was a little worried about a kid doing dual sports, and then once I saw him run, I'm like, all right, we'll make this work. Mm-hmm. So I'm great to see that. We have another young lady, Cody Langdon, that came out with us for this year, and she does not look like an athlete. When I first saw her, I'm like, you're sweet, you're awesome. And then I saw her being tied for number 1 on our high jump team as a freshman. Jump in 410, I believe, is her PR right now. And then she wanted to learn long jump the other day, and I'm like, all right, well, we'll have you learn long jump. And already I'm like, oh, okay, you might be a long jumper too. So it's fun to watch that. It's been great. A good group of freshmen coming out.
That is insane. The level of talent these kids coming in, Coach, to be able to not only be the best as a freshman, but to come in and really make your stamp early on. It's weird. It's crazy. It's much different from when I was in high school, from when you were in high school. I mean, obviously you had your multi-sport athletes, you had the kids participating in multiple events, but I think genuinely just, as the future generations go along, the games are going to change. The competition is going to get more tight. I think kids, I got 2 nieces. I don't even know where they're going to be at in high school. One's 2, one was born a couple days ago. So, I who knows where the level of competition is going to be, not only, 10 plus years from now, but also even just 5+ years. So it's crazy to see that talent coming in so early and already competing at a high level. The natural talent of some of these kids is absolutely wild. But Coach Barkeen, I got one more question for you before we let you go. We'll talk again a little bit later in the season. So I want to ask, April 1st, you guys are going to be competing in the Ron Smith Classic at Shadow Mountain High School. I know you're dealing with the Nike Chandler Rotary right now, but just looking forward to that meet on the 1st. Who are you looking to compete against, and how are you preparing the team for that one?
So, yeah, it's kind of a dual thing. So this weekend at the Nike Chandler Rotary, it is a 2-day for those who aren't familiar. It is a 2-day meet. So Friday is your general kind of athletes, and then Saturday is for your seed and elite. So that's usually your top 20 and your top 30 out of the 150 schools that entered. We only go Saturday to focus on those elite. This is the biggest team we've ever taken. We have 35 athletes going that day.
Wow.
Most we've ever had entered. So that's kind of our focus right now. Turning around to Ron Smith, that might be a meet that we look at trying to show off a little bit and maybe possibly winning that one. I know I talked about not focusing on winning a meet because it's more about the times, but I think that's one where we can kind of flex our muscles a little bit and go, here we are to the state. Yeah. Because it's a little more low key, which I think sometimes helps after such a high powered meet like Nike, where it's super stressful to go to Ron Smith. I think it's only 20 schools going from 150 schools to go, all right, let's have some fun, a relaxed competition, and see if the kids can show off a little bit there.
Well, Coach, I wish you nothing but the best of luck in that meet. Again, they'll be participating in the Ron Smith Classic on April 1st at Shadow Mountain High School. Safe travels to and from, Coach. I hope you do just what you want to do, which is show off and flex that eagle muscle and show all of that great talent you got in your program. But as always, Coach Barkeen, I appreciate you coming on the show, giving us an update on track and field and Flagstaff, and I look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Thank you so much. I love being here.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Lee Williams High School baseball coach Zach Smith right here on Off the Bench. Don't go anywhere.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I'm joined now by Lee Williams High School baseball coach Zach Smith. Coach Smith, welcome onto the show.
Sounds good. Hey, appreciate you having me.
Well, we're very happy to have you, Coach. You took over this season for Coach Patrick O'Boyle. Coach O'Boyle, I believe, moved out of the area. So best of luck to Coach O'Boyle, but Coach Smith steps in to take over that role as the head coach. So I wanted to start, Coach, just kind of with your origins. How did you get started into coaching, and how did it lead you to Lee Williams?
So I'm originally from Western Nebraska, where Coach O'Boyle was from. We both went to the same high school, coached under the same program back in Gearing. We don't have high school baseball there. We just have Legion baseball. So we both coached under, our mentor and our kind of our go-to guy where we got all of our information from, Rick Kinnaman. And, he tough work, hard work, blue collar. That's kind of what we've gone with and what we've learned. And we've just kind of tried to install into our kids and, especially in our Kingman community where we are very blue collared. We got to work for everything that we get. We don't have the nicest facilities. We got to kind of, it's ours and we got to take care of it and we got to run with it. But yeah, that's kind of where I came from. I've been coaching baseball this is my 9th year, I believe. Kind of ever since I got out of high school, I've been coaching Legion baseball, and then had the privilege of Coach O'Boyle coming down here and bringing me down down to Kingman. And, it's been a great marriage ever since.
Coach, do you have any influences that you kind of like to bounce off of? Anyone that sticks out to you?
Yeah, definitely Rick Kinnaman. Tom O'Boyle is another really big one. And my late father, Gary Smith, I've learned a ton from, when I was in high school, they were the reason why I wanted to coach,
Yeah.
why I wanted to get involved in teaching as well, is because, making the impact of, young kids goes much longer than, anything else I personally think that anyone can do.
Yeah, I share the same sentiment. My dad was also my coach in baseball. He coached me up until my sophomore year of high school, and it was really weird not having him out on the field. But he doesn't come from a teaching background, but same thing. It's just an inspiration thing. It's just getting a chance to see your dad do it makes you want to do it as well. So anyway, I want to talk about the offseason, Coach. Getting back to the team here. It was a program. I know you guys welcomed in some talented freshmen. We'll talk about one of them here. You're welcoming back a solid senior group. Obviously, you have connections with the program already, so you know a lot about those guys as it is. But I want to ask, how did the offseason go in your first year? What were you guys able to accomplish? And did you welcome in any new faces that you're excited about?
Yeah, we had kind of had a different offseason, with Coach O'Boyle leaving at,
Right.
Such a strange time and, just kind of abruptly, which, we kind of all expected it to happen. We just didn't know when.
Right.
So we were kind of caught behind the eight ball a little bit, but, we really, dug in, got into some new foundational work. And, we had a really good off season. Didn't quite get as many games in as we wanted to, but, there's practice time is more important,
Right.
especially in the winter. And so we just kind of just rolled along and, had all of our coaches, new coaches come in. We, like you said, we have a great core of seniors. We are a little young
Yeah.
in terms of, experience, varsity experience. I think we maybe only have 2 or 3 guys that have contributed at the varsity level. So, we're still kind of trying to figure things out, getting through some adversity. But yeah, no, we're really young. We got a good core of young guys as well. Nick Kennedy's a sophomore. Barrett Bowman's a freshman that's contributed really, really well. Troy Edwards is a junior.
Yep.
Then we have a new face to our program in Dylan Towning. He moved in from California, was homeschooled, and he's kind of been involved with the Kingman Raptors travel program the last couple of years.
Okay.
And we're lucky enough to have him. He's a great baseball player and an even better human when it comes to it, school wise. And he really does a great job for our team, just being that guy behind the plate that we're so used to with Dylan Peterson last year. He stepped in and filled a huge void for us.
Well, coming into the season, the Volunteers are currently 5-2 overall, 1-2 in the region. The program started off the season 3-0, beating Kingman, Coronado, and Prescott before taking a trip over to the Kingman Invitational. Coach, your first season with the program as the head coach, to make that clear, how you feeling about the start of the season so far?
We've had our ups and downs. We've played really good baseball leading up into the Kingman Invitational. Then, those 5-inning games and that Kingman Invite it's different. It's a different format. And so, we played all right. We kind of started getting our groove there Friday, and then unfortunately got a bad break against Baghdad. And time limit hit, and we kind of had to drop and revert back to the last inning. But they're a great team, and I expect big things from them. And overall though, we've kind of been a roller coaster.
Yeah. Coach, you talk about being in that tournament, running those 5-inning games, running on those time limits. I got a chance to call a couple games for the Faith Moore Memorial softball tournament that Mingus and Mojave's softball team participated in. And they ran into the same thing, game finished in 4 innings just because of time. So I want to ask, obviously you're trying to get these guys time on the mound, up at the plate. These are literally why those tournaments are there, literally just more time for these guys to get opportunities. So how do you approach tournaments like that where you're not going to be playing full games? You're going to be just kind of doing these short stints. Obviously, you want to keep guys fresh, these tournaments are happening throughout the season. You don't want to hit pitch limits too early because you might need a guy on Tuesday and you got a tournament on, the week before. So I'm just curious, how do you approach those sort of weird tournaments like that?
I have a phenomenal staff behind me. I got John Blake, who's coached in the past at Lee Williams, and, Matt Clanky's done a phenomenal job. Ron Bowman does a great job for me. So, we kind of sit down together and we really go through it, and, we keep guys at a specific number.
Yeah.
So then that way we get them either the next day or the following day. And, we're blessed and fortunate enough to have a deep staff to where we can throw multiple guys and, it doesn't necessarily hurt us.
You guys got an opportunity to take on Lake Havasu and Prescott after, of course, participating in the Kingman Invitational. That led up to you guys participating in the Lancer Baseball Classic. Coach, what do these midseason tournaments, you stepping into this program as the new head coach? Again, I know you've been there before, you've been with this program for a little bit, but, what did these tournaments tell you about the team? And, when they're in situations where they got to fight or they're in situations where they're leading by a lot, I mean, what did that tell? What did these tournaments tell you about the team this season?
Who we needed to be and who we want to be. We ran into some phenomenal teams. We played Higley, who's a great team in 5A. Sunnyside, who's another really good team in 5A. We faced a extremely well-coached team from Oklahoma down in Tucson, and we saw where we were at and what we needed to work on. And so I love those tournaments, especially in the middle of the year, because it kind of gives us a refresh button to where, we're not playing the same teams every week. And we get the opportunity to go down as a team and, spend time in a hotel and, get to know each other a lot better. And, especially with all the new faces, it's really good for us.
I remember playing travel ball when I was a kid, and those trips out of town when you get to go to the hotels, they have the hotel pool and all the guys that hang out after is a lot of fun. Sometimes I desperately miss. There's some really good times playing some travel baseball when I was a kid. But we're speaking with Lee Williams High School baseball coach Zach Smith. The Volunteers are currently 5-2 overall, 1-2 in the region. They're getting ready for games against Bradshaw and Mingus Union this week. So we're talking to Coach Smith before those matchups. Then they'll take on Moon Valley on April 1st. We'll talk about those in just a little bit. Coach, I want to ask, what is the identity of this team right now before we get into specifics with the players?
Gritty. That's a good word that I would put with our team. We battle at the plate. We had really good at bats last night against Bradshaw. Some things just didn't go our way. Yeah. We do need to get better on the defensive side of the ball. Our pitching staff's done a phenomenal job there. They compete on the mound whenever they're up there. Yeah. And, that's all we can ask for as a staff is, just go out and compete. Whenever you get the ball on the bump, compete.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got some guys on the bump who are competing. One of which I was going to save this for a little later, but since we're talking about pitching, you mentioned him earlier. Freshman Barrett Bowman has been pitching very well so far through 12 innings pitched. Of course, there'll be a couple games before this interview is aired, but he's currently carrying at this time in the interview a 2.92 ERA, 2 wins on the season, 2 losses on the season, 17 Ks, but keeping that ERA under 3 as a freshman is very, very impressive. So, Coach, what have you liked from your standout freshman pitcher, and what is the rest of the game plan for the rotation in general?
Barrett's done a phenomenal job. We're extremely blessed to have him in our program, especially at such a young age. Him being able to compete at the varsity level. He's really bought into our pitching philosophy of two strikes out of every 3 pitches.
Yeah.
Pitch to contact and good things happen. He's really bought into our program, and you're starting to see the things that you want to see out of a young kid.
Right.
Great teammate. Hustles everywhere. Goes and gets foul balls whenever he's not in. He's fully bought in, and it's good to see that at such a young age. And our pitching staff's going to be set up here really well. We'll get Anthony Lucero, who transferred from Coconino last year.
Oh.
We'll get him starting with that Moon Valley game on April 1st. And, he's only going to add to our pitching rotation, and we're going to be extremely deep. And, he's a great kid, great teammate, and he's itching to get back on the field.
Let's keep talking about that young core you have. You've also got a solid class of sophomores. You mentioned Dylan Towning. You mentioned Nick Kennedy, Cruz Yoakum, who has had minimal opportunities at the plate, but has done a great job. He's batting about 500 right now. I want to ask, what do you think that your group of sophomores, along with your freshmen, what do you think they can accomplish in these next couple of years?
They're a great group. We're extremely fortunate to have, that type of talent in our program. I expect big things from them, especially next year when we lose, 8, 9 seniors.
Right.
They're going to have to be the guys that we lean on. And, Cruz has had a couple of opportunities. We just don't want to stunt his development. It's going to be a huge part for us next year. Nick's a phenomenal guy to have at first base and on the mound. He's seen some time. And, at the plate, he's very dangerous. He's got a lot of pop. And, Dylan Towning's he's a stud. And we're fortunate to have him.
Well, let's talk about those seniors, Coach. You got 8 on the roster this season. What can you say about the senior class? Like I said, you've seen these guys in this program for a couple of years now. But what are their contributions at this point in the season been so far?
Leadership.
Okay.
We've had some guys step into roles this year that they've never had to. We've had phenomenal seniors like Dylan Peterson, Garrett Dean, Levi Isaacs, Addis Guzman, Justin Talk, that they've been able to learn from over the last 3 years. And, they're starting to take some traits of every single leader that we've had from the past. And, RJ Boslett's done a phenomenal job being a vocal leader for us. And, Ethan Clanky's been around the program since he's a freshman. And, he's contributed since he was a freshman, and he's starting to take the hold, some of those leadership opportunities. Roman Perea has been phenomenal on the mound for us. He's our workhorse, our guy that we can really lean on when we need a really good start and a really deep start. I don't have time to talk about all of them, unfortunately. I love them to death. They're one of the first kids that I was around when I moved down, and they hold a special place in my heart.
Well, it's great that you've gotten a chance to see that group grow from when they were freshmen all the way to seniors. And like I mentioned, you got a great group of freshmen and sophomores this season that you'll get to see them go through. Now they're going to be going through your program. Obviously you've taken over for Coach O'Boyle. You've got a chance to make a little bit more of those tough decisions. JV team, Coach, how are things looking down at the JV levels? Anyone down there you're excited to bring up next season?
Yeah, our JV teams, our head coach of our JV program's done a phenomenal job over the last ever since he's been here. Shane Peterson's done a fantastic job. He develops them and he teaches them life skills. And by the time they get up to me and then was Coach O'Boyle, they're ready to go. They don't miss a beat. They contribute right away. They can step in. They're used to being having to handle adversity. We got a lot of freshmen that are going to contribute next year, and some sophomores and juniors that are going to step into some big time leadership roles for us. And, the future is extremely bright for Lee Williams baseball.
Yeah, I definitely agree, Coach. Just kind of looking up and down that lineup, some of the teams you guys have gotten a chance to play against and beat, I will get a chance to see your team when you guys take a trip down to Mingus Union when we do some baseball. But, I agree. You and your neighbor Mojave, I got a chance to see Mojave take on Mingus Union this past week, and Coach Bauer and Coach Davis down there at Mojave, they're building something as well that could be really good. And same with you and Lee Williams. We kind of, I hate to say it, sometimes you guys get lost in the shuffle a little bit on the show just because, Kingman's so far kind of out of the area, but you guys are fully a part of the 4A Grand Canyon region, of course. And we got 2 phenomenal baseball programs out there in Kingman. Let's not forget some of the teams around you guys, River Valley, Lake Havasu is a great program, Kingman Academy as well. I mean, there's a lot of great programs, Mojave Accelerated. I mean, there are schools up and down in that area, that portion of the state that really yields some great talent. And I've gotten a chance to see a lot of that talent talking with Coach O'Boyle. I'm sure you and I have talked before as well. We'll talk again this season. So you're right. I mean, you guys really are building something special up there. But Coach, I got one more question for you before we let you go. It's about the season, the schedule coming up here. You guys take on Bradshaw on Thursday again. You face Mingus Union for the first time on Saturday, and then you come back to take on Moon Valley on April 1st. First and foremost, you got a chance to see the region already with Prescott. and Bradshaw. So how are you feeling about that second matchup with Bradshaw Mountain? How are you feeling going into that matchup with Mingus Union? I know it's like 12 questions. How are you feeling about the region? And then what are you feeling about Moon Valley?
Yeah, it was good learning experience for our kids yesterday when we played Bradshaw. They, to put it in layman's terms, they beat our butts. They're extremely well coached. They don't make many mistakes. And, we had 4 errors and, they let us know. And so it's good for us to kind of get that nice slice of humble pie and, let us reset and kind of refresh our brains. And, they're tough. I talked with Eric. Love Eric at Mingus Union. He does a fantastic job with his kids. And, our region, I personally think it's one of the toughest in the state of 4A. Yep. We got 5-6 teams that can go out and win the region on any given year. Yep. Prescott's gotten a lot better. Coconino's always well coached and they're extremely tough. Flagstaff is Flagstaff. They're always tough.
Yeah.
And it's Mojave's they're on the rise. I think Dale's done a great job with turning around that program, getting kids to buy into it. And, it's only a matter of time before they start getting the numbers that they need to compete. And, it's tough. Our region you got to come to play every game. And, we didn't come to play yesterday and it showed. But, looking forward to finally getting some home games as well. We've been on the road a ton. Getting a chance to play in front of our fans and, our kids, they love playing at our place. It's a tough place to play because it's not the nicest place to play, but it's ours and we own it. And, we enjoy playing at home, but it doesn't get any easier moving forward for us schedule-wise.
Well, I've gotten a chance to take a couple trips over to Lee Williams for some football games. We don't do coverage for baseball on the road, but you're right. Gorgeous facility, that football field. You guys are parked up right against the mountains. I haven't gotten a chance to see the baseball stadium, so I got to get a chance to go down and check out the baseball stadium. But you're right, Coach. You guys are building something great over at Lee Williams. You're picking up right where Coach O'Boyle left off. I know you guys are close. From Nebraska to Kingman, he is Zach Smith, the Lee Williams High School baseball coach. And like I said, you guys I'm really excited. You're right. 4A Grand Canyon region, always tough, always competitive, no matter what the year is. But Coach Smith, thank you very much for coming on the show to talk about your program. Congrats on getting the job at Lee Williams. We're excited to see how you build this program. We'll be following along with you as you go along. And I look forward to shaking your hand when Mingus Union takes on Lee Williams.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you doing this for our area athletes. We don't get enough recognition, not only just Kingman, but, everybody in our region, we kind of get overshadowed. So kudos to you. And, it's awesome that you do this for our kids.
You guys are seen, Coach. I just want you to know that you're always seen. And I appreciate you taking the time. Great program up in Lee Williams, led by this man, Zach Smith. That is going to do it for this episode of Off the Bench. I'm your host, Philip Catalfamo, wishing you a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you again next week.